Take your CJ7 all the way to 11. Jeepin' with Cool Guy.
Alright, fan base, we're going to install a new Bluetooth radio that looks retro on the CJ7. Super excited about this. I'm not going to show you all the steps of the install, but what I am going to show you is some of the aftermath and how to hook it up. Alright, here we are installed. It took me about 4 hours to do this, and like everything else, if I were to go back and do it again, it'd probably take me about half an hour. Once I got all the wires run from the speakers and put into the different wire looms and harnesses around the car, I tried to figure out how to install this, because there's these L brackets. If you buy this, you'll see the configuration. It's not very complicated, but I tried to mentally over-engineer it and tried to figure out how I was going to mount it into the actual dash and all the other types of things. What I wound up doing was taking just the bracket that holds this thing into the back of the dash and using the larger washers and the screw ports, or the nuts, to tighten this thing down between the dash and the support pieces. You'll get this metal strap that goes into the back of this, way back in here, that you're supposed to mount to something on the inside there. And instead of jerry-rigging this whole support post or support strap or whatever, it was just way too difficult. I couldn't figure out any other way of doing it, because, I mean, you're trying to screw into areas that are like that big. So this ultimately wound up being the best solution, because, I mean, this thing does not move. There is no movement to it. It is solidly in there. So when you get this, if you're installing it into a CJ or a CJ7 that's unmolested into this dash, that's how I'd recommend doing this. So let me go show you the washer configuration. And alright, this is the box that the Retrosound Hermosa M2 came in. Owner's manual, little thing about accessories, just the different styles. But what I was talking about before is it comes with this metal strap bracket and two black adjustable brackets that are about this big and about this long on both sides. And they've got a bunch of holes in them so that you can configure it to the right height. This is just an extra one that I had from another project. But what I had to do was to cut out some of the holes in that, because they don't line up exactly the way that you need them to. When you start lining the thing up, you'll see what I'm talking about. But back to what I was talking about 30 seconds ago. With this bracket, what I wound up doing was, let's act like this is the dash panel. This is obviously the bracket, and coming through here, like this, is the radio post. So this bracket is behind the panel. What I did was I took one of the nuts, these thin nuts, and one of the larger washers, and okay, let's see if I can mentally process this. Just like this. So you've got a nut and a washer pressing from behind. Radio's right here. Post goes through the dash, and then here's the dash panel. Then I put another washer on the outside of the dash panel, and then screwed this nut onto the other end of the post. So you wind up sandwiching it in there. And then this winds up creating a nice support system by use of the bracket and the panel. Why can I not think of these words? Man, brain dead. Super close-up nut, washer, bracket. Cool. put this in here just to show what the panel could possibly be. Then one more washer, and then one more nut. That's what it would look like. You get these all nice and tightened down. You get the depth of the radio post set right so that the actual main radio configuration rests right up against the dash panel, so that you can put your radio bezel on top of it and have no gap. Then you've got a nice support system. Other than that, you don't really need a whole lot of the other stuff in here, at least for the CJs. They give you a lot of stuff so that you can configure it in different types of dashes, but for the CJ, all you need is just the bracket that comes with it, the big black bracket, a total of 4 of the nuts, a total of 4 of the washers, and that's pretty much about it. It's a really easy install. Alright, so let's go hook this thing up. Let's do some wiring real quick. I got these off of a guy on Facebook Marketplace. And these are the original electrical plugs that go with, I think it's like from 80 to 86. Maybe it's 81 to 86. I know that the earlier, late 70s, really early 80s CJ7s, have glass fuses in their fuse box, but these are the plugs that go into my vehicle. So I got these, thought this was kind of cool. The radio requires 2 sources of power, a key switch on power source and a 12 volt constant power source. And I'm going to show you what that looks like and where I plug my things in on the fuse box. So what I did, or am going to do, and you can already see that I have hooked up the radio connector, which is the red one right there. There on your fuse box, you'll notice that there's lettering that will help you with this. But on mine, I plugged the on key on switch to the radio, and then I'm going to use over here. Up above the blue fuse, there is a clock. Let's see if I can get that to focus here. Right there. That's going to be my constant power source. Since this was a Renegade, I don't have a clock, and that is just an open port. So for my instance, that's going to be my constant 12 volt power. If you have a clock like a Laredo or a Golden Eagle or one of the other trims, actually I don't think you would have, unless it's a Laredo, because the Golden Eagles, I think they stopped in 81. Anyways, you would have to figure out some other way of wiring that constant power source into the radio. There's another one over here, CLK. You can kind of see it. Let's see if I can get it in focus right there. That might be another option. I don't know if that's a constant on or not, but those are going to be my 2 power sources. The other thing you'll notice if you are lucky enough to come across these plugs is that they're all different sizes and different configurations. The smaller ones, like the green, the black, and the brown, all seem to be the same configuration. The red one, which I'm not exactly quite sure how these are designated. If I can find a picture of this, I'll upload it into this video. Actually, I do have a picture of it. Let me show it to you right now. And what happens is you, hopefully, if you get it, then you will get the little metal plugs, or the little metal connectors that go with it. And you just put your wire through here, strip it, bend these things down, and then slide this into here until it clicks. And then this latch goes into the fuse box and locks it into place. It's kind of a cool little system. I don't know if you can get these for aftermarket. I haven't seen anything. This was just off of a guy that had pulled them out of another CJ. If you can find them, highly recommend them. Alright, so this is the constant power source, the one that I'm going to be hooking into the clock plug. I've just stripped the wire back a little bit, half an inch give or take. Clamp this thing down nice and tight. That isn't going anywhere. Test it, just make sure. I also like to put a little bit of dielectric grease on this stuff just to help prevent corrosion and just keep it nice and clean. And it doesn't hurt it. Then you just take your clip, slide it in the back. As soon as it clicks in, then you're good to go. And then you just plug this right into your fuse box. I'm going to plug this right into the clock port, and we should have power. Okay, let's see what we got going on. Oops. Alright. Turn it to ACC, turn it on, got voltage, press and hold. There we go, we got power. Now you get to go into your user manual and figure out how this thing all works. But for right now, I think we're good to go. Let's see if we can turn it on. Radio. Okay, cool. Yeah! That'll get your blood flowing like that. Let's crank it up. The configuration that I went with, I tried to stay as close to the original look as I could. Retrosound does a pretty good job of providing something that's fairly similar, but I mean it's close. The bezel that goes behind your two knobs that operate your secondary controls don't cover up the gap that's above this particular post. I'm not all that worried about it. It's not that big of a deal to me. I think the thing looks absolutely fabulous as is. But overall, it looks really good. So I got the little chrome knobs, the black bezel, the beeping that you heard earlier. That's just a function that you can turn off by reading the manual. But for the most part, this thing seems to be really good. I'm actually really happy with it. Let's do the Bluetooth real quick. Alright, I'm going to turn it on here. If you got it all hooked up, this thing turns on automatically. You use your this back rear bezel and you turn it clockwise. I think it goes through radio, auxiliary 1, auxiliary 2, USB 1, and then Bluetooth. And you can see that it came up BT. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take out our phone here and we're going to hook up to Bluetooth. I'm using a Samsung, so it's slightly different than an iPhone. Bluetooth is on. Okay, so it shows up as Retrosound. I'm going to select Retrosound. It says no device. We're connecting. Connected. Alright, cool. Here we go. Yeah, buddy. Let's rock out to some Maryland, baby. That's not bad. Got two kickers, 4.5s here. Yeah. And then it gives you a nice little goodbye. Alright, that's how you install the Retrosound Hermosa M2 with Bluetooth capabilities. I got it from Crutchfield. I think it was under $300. The reason I went with this radio was it had a decent amount of power, great reviews, and it's specifically built to be able to adapt to different types of dashes. This was an unmolested dash. It still had the radio knob, or the radio post. It hadn't been cut out into the DIN square that you can plug pretty much any car stereo into. And I was able to keep it original looking. And it's fairly close to being original. So I thought that that was a really great combination. I'll put a description, or a link in the description. If you have any other questions on how to wire this thing, or other options that this thing comes with, or other ways of doing this, I might be able to help. But leave questions in the comment section. Leave comments in the comment section. And like and subscribe. Slowly trying to build this fan base of CJ7 rebuilds. Also, if you've got a video that you would like to see me put together, and it could be as mundane as installing, screws in the dash. Just put it out there. I'd love to know your feedback. I want to hear your feedback so that I can improve this. And I'm also getting ready to start on a 1979 Golden Eagle CJ7 that has a V8 304 original motor in it and a Dana 20 transfer case with a T153 speed. So since it's a 79, it's got the narrow track axles in it, and slightly different configurations in the tub and the wiring harness. It was pre-emissions control, so there's no computer in it. So there's going to be a lot of different things coming from that one than from this 84 CJ7 Renegade. It'll be really interesting to see what the differences are. So pay attention, because I got a whole bunch of new videos coming out in the next few months. It's going to be a fun ride.